Sharane Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharane Prabhu Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Sharane Prabhu Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Sharane Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharane Sharanagatoham 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 Sharane Sharanagatoham 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 Sharane Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharane Namo Shri Gurave Namo Shri Gurave Namo Shri Gurave Namo 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 Shri Gurave Namo Shri Gurave Namo Shri Gurave Namo Namo Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharane Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharane Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya Ram Krishna Jaya Jaya Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharane Prabhu Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Sharane Prabhu Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Kripa Hi Kevalam Sharane Jai Jai Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Ram Krishna Sharanam Sharane
Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritam Gamaya Aviravirmaedhi Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Tena Mam Pahi Nityam Tena Mam Pahi Nityam. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourself, O Lord, and protect us evermore from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So this morning is question and answers, and so you have to come up with some questions, and I have to come up with some answers. And unfortunately, because of the weather, several people called and indicated that they may not come because of the weather. So we don't have a large crowd today, just a few people, but we'll do question and answers anyway, as long as there are some questions. So someone please ask something. And yes, Ajay.
I have some very profound questions. Okay. The book that you gave to me, the Gita, I started reading it. Okay.
Yes.
And I said, how much do I really comprehend it? Okay. In reality, it's not a running commentary. It's a very deep thought process behind it, and the integration between different chapters. So this morning I sat down for about 30-40 minutes reading Karma Yoga, which is always a very favorite topic of mine. First 2 pages I came up with these questions, and I'm very happy that I'm here and you will address those. You look at the self. He says that you know who you are, I'm inside you. Then he says, do these karmas, good or bad, okay? Good karmas. And then there is third aspect of it is devotion to Krishna or devotion to the Lord. And then there's a short-term process and a long-term process. And then I live in this world, imperfect world, in which there is temptation, there are afflictions. My question is, he says that you have got to do good things before the faith develops. My question is this, faith, and I'm trying to get out of this noise, and how do I propel myself to doing good karmas, and still I'm pulled every day of the week where I have to make a decision, and I'm tempted by the devil, or whatever it is. So how do I get to 2 things? And I think you probably will say prayers. Okay, and that's where the dilemma is. How do I move from stage 1 to stage 2, and then to stage N, which is Jivan Mukti, in a short length of time? Or it is a process of birth, rebirth. AJ, it's okay, you made some progress in this life, maybe some in life, in the next life, and it's a continuation of process. So I boiled it down to 2 things, the faith and detachment. Given the surroundings I'm in. Your thoughts, please.
Yes, okay. So faith and then the process of moving forward on the spiritual life. So let me deal with them a little separately because they're two different questions, and they're related, of course, both related to the spiritual path, but a little bit, they need separate treatment. Well, let me take the second part first about the process of spiritual life, what to do, and is it a matter of many births, or is what can I do in a short amount of time? Sri Ramakrishna never liked the attitude that, well, everything will happen in time, so don't be in a hurry, let everything happen, if not in this life, then in another life. He wanted people to have, you can't attain anything in spiritual life unless you have some sort of desire that, let me do what I can do now. Let me do what I can do now, rather than saying, well, everything will take care of itself in time, so don't bother yourself too much. No, if you take that attitude, then you won't get anywhere. But the fact is that we see in actual life that among those who are on a spiritual path, in any generation, there are only a handful who attain to Jivan Mukti. So that's our goal. That's what we should aim for, and that's what we should try for. At the same time, we see that as a practical matter, only a few people actually attain to it. And so we have to have this contradictory, or not as contradictory, it's paradoxical. A paradoxical approach where I want to attain something now, but I also recognize that it may take a long time. So I want to practice as though I'm going to get God now. At the same time, I recognize that God is not an apple or a mango or a pear that I can go to the store, buy, and take home with me. It's the most subtle of all subtle matters. So how long it will take and everything is not in my hands. So this paradoxical attitude we have to have, where I want it now, but I'm ready to keep going until I get it. And that's because of a recognition of the time factor, which is just a reality, that it takes time, because we have the mind, when we try to practice, try to meditate, try to pray, etc., we find that the mind gives very little cooperation. And working with the mind, what do we have to work on the mind with? Only the mind. So it's mind working with mind. And the mind is something which is intangible, not something we can take a wrench or a pair of pliers and tighten it, or loosen it, or a screwdriver and loosen it a little bit or tighten it a little bit. No, it's something that's extremely subtle, intangible, non-physical. And so we have to recognize the difficulty of spiritual life. At the same time, we have to recognize that unless I want it, unless I really want it, I won't get anywhere. But it's not as hopeless as that makes it sound. That makes it sound like, well, you have to really want it badly, but you're never going to get anywhere in this life. No, it doesn't mean that. It means that everyone who struggles, everyone who tries, gets something in this life itself, gets something in this life itself. It's a great step in spiritual life that we cross when we realize that there's really nothing else worth having. As long as we think that, well, there's spiritual life, that looks nice, but there are all these other things that look nice also. And if I go this way, then that's going to take too much of my time. This is easily attainable, spirituality is difficult to attain, so let me go get this. And then in some life, no, after some time we realize, and it's a great realization, when we see that these things that look so attractive, they're not so attractive. They're not so attractive. They don't solve our problem. They don't solve our... Once we see that, then we're ready to say, okay, then there's nothing else really worthwhile. So this may not come easily, but whatever I can do to go in that direction will be to my benefit. Whatever I can do will be to my benefit. So it's not all or nothing. It's a question of realizing what is really worthwhile in life. And then the other things begin to loosen their hold. Swami Vivekananda used to say, and I often quote him on this, he said, people ask me what they should give up to follow a spiritual life. I tell them, don't give up anything. make it so hot for nature that nature gives you up. And so that is pertinent here, because if I want spirituality and yet recognize that it's difficult to attain, but if I can see that other things are really not worth having, then I'm ready to, okay, whatever I can get from this, I will get, and the other things begin to fall away from me. So that doesn't mean that, okay, I'm going to go for spirituality, and so now I'm not going to eat good food, I'm not going to buy nice clothes, I'm not going to fix my house, I'm going to let everything in my life fall apart. I'm only going, no, it doesn't mean that. In the third chapter of the Gita, the Karma Yoga chapter, all through the Gita there's Karma Yoga, but the third chapter is called Karma Yoga Nama Tritiyodhyaya. The third chapter called Karma Yoga. There Sri Krishna says, Niyatam Guru Karmatvam Karma Jyayo Hya Karmanaha, that being self-controlled, do your work, do your duty, because work is better than inaction. Sharira yatra pichate na prasidhyera karmanaha. Even the maintenance of your body is not possible without working. So Sri Krishna is not saying you'll forget about the maintenance of your body. No, you have to have a place to live. You have, in today's society, you have to have transportation. You have to dress. And in this society, in India, you can wear a very simple dress if you want to, an old dhoti and an old Punjabi. But here in this society, you can't get by that way. Of course, the way people dress nowadays in America looks worse than an old dhoti and a Punjabi. It's the style to have jeans with holes in the knees and t-shirts that are torn and all of that. You have to pay extra money to get a t-shirt with a hole in it and jeans with holes in them in the right place. But you have to have decent clothes. You have to have a place to live. If you live in a nice neighborhood, you can't let your yard go to pieces and put an old torn up car in the front, because the neighborhood association will complain and say these people are not taking care of their house, push them out or something. So Sri Krishna doesn't say, don't do anything for yourself, just seek Jivan Mukti. No, you have to do the things that you have to do, but no, while you're taking care of your house, while you're taking care of your family, while you're taking care of your car, while you're taking care of dressing yourself and all of that, know that these are not what's going to solve life's problems. These are the things you have to do just to get through life. You have to do it just to get through life. If you want to go from here to Hawaii for a vacation, well, first you have to go to the airport and go through security. That's not what you do because you want to go through security. It's not what you do because you want to get in an airplane and sit like this in a cramped quarters for so many hours and eat bad food and all of that. No. But if you want to go to Hawaii, you have to go through all of that. That's part of getting through with it. And so in this life, dressing yourself, taking care of your house, taking care of transportation, taking care of the family, all of those things are what you have to do to get through life. That has to be done. But know what the purpose of life is. Know that that's not going to solve your problem. If you don't take care of those things, then you have big problems. Either with the police or with the neighborhood association or with whatever, because you're not taking care of things, you're not paying your bills and so forth. But paying bills is not the goal of life. Taking care of your house is not the goal of life. All of these things are just what you have to do to get through life. And so, once you realize that, however long it takes, that's the only thing that will solve the problems of life. Let me go forward. And so then everything falls into place. You don't stop taking care of your kids. You don't stop taking care of your husband or wife. You don't stop paying bills. No, that you all do. But you realize that no, doing that just keeps me afloat so that I can do the other thing, which is the main thing. That is spiritual life. There are two great opportunities that are given to us in life, normally, for most of us. Two great things given to us. One is, in youth, when we don't yet have responsibilities. We're not yet married, we don't yet have a career, we're going to school and things. There's a time in youth when, in spite of having to do your studies and things, there's a great freedom that is given to you. The problem is that people, when they're young, don't usually recognize that as a great thing. They're thinking, oh, I can't wait to get out of school so I can get a job and have a real life. Once they get out of school, get a real job and get a real life, then they realize, oh God, in school I had it so good, I didn't have so many things to worry about. But that's the nature of youth. But then a second time is given to us, and that time is given to us when we've done most of our responsibilities in life. Our basic responsibilities are done. Then again, we're given another chance. And this was recognized in India from ancient times, that there are these two great periods in life. One, the stage, the ashrama of brahmacharya, when you're a student, and a second, when you have finished the garhastya stage, and you can go into vanaprastha stage. And then again, you can begin to dedicate more of your time, more of your attention to spiritual things. Not suddenly, because if your whole life has been busy with things, and then suddenly you have nothing to do except for sit and read the scriptures and meditate, you find you can't do it. The mind begins to just go crazy with not enough to keep it busy. So, but little by little, you begin to learn how to focus your life around spiritual things, little by little. So these two great periods of life are given to us. So again, in the process, that's the process, is recognizing what is the goal of life, and then doing what I can within my circumstances to go there. And realizing that nothing else solves the problems in life. That's the strange phenomenon of midlife crisis, which of course everybody has heard of now. It's a huge thing. Everybody talks about midlife crisis. When suddenly you find that you realize that life is getting away from you. Usually in your 40s or 50s, sometimes it comes late in the 60s, but when you realize that life is getting away from me, that my chance to enjoy life is getting away, my chance to have the things that I wanted is getting away, the chance to do the things I wanted to do in life is getting away. I still have vitality, but I see that I've peaked, and now I'm on the downhill slope towards death. Death may be a long way away, but I realize now that from here on it's going downhill. My powers begin to diminish, my body begins to diminish, aches and pains begin to increase and so forth. And then suddenly there's this intense desire to grab the world while I still can. Grab the world while I still can. But no, if before that, or if when that comes or before that comes, if a person can realize that there's nothing to grab, there's nothing worth grabbing. You see how many foolish mistakes people make when if that midlife crisis comes to them. How many foolish mistakes they make because they think that this is my last chance to grab. And then they start grabbing without thinking. And it's a tragedy for many families. In India, that happens less, not because the same dynamic is not there, but just because society doesn't allow it so much. But here, because society is free and you can do what you want to within certain limits, then that full-blown midlife crisis comes. So anyway, so that's the process. But then coming back to the other aspect, that is faith. Faith is a very interesting thing. Faith, nobody can live without faith. Nobody can live without faith. The atheist also has faith of their own type. You can't live without faith. The question in life is, what do I put my faith in? Where do I put my faith? It's not, do you have faith or don't you have faith? You can't live without faith. In fact, if you lose faith completely, then there's nothing left for you but suicide. There's nothing left to do but suicide. Because everyone can't live without faith. You breathe with the faith. You don't think about your breathing because you have the faith that air is going to be there. If you weren't sure you could breathe, if you weren't sure that there was going to be enough air, then you would be thinking about every breath. Oh, is this going to be the last one? Is this going to be the last? Oh, this person sitting next to me is taking too much air. Maybe there won't be enough left for me. So you live in the faith that air is going to be there. You live in the faith that the earth is going to be stable. If you live in a place like California where there are occasional earthquakes, then that's something that you have to get used to, because you're used to everything being stable, and then suddenly everything starts going like this, and it's a terrible shake-up to you, until you realize that, oh, that happens, that I'm living in California, that happens. And then you have the faith that, well, the big one is not going to be imminent. And so it's just going to be a little tremor, and you can continue with your life. So all of us have faith. We go to sleep in the faith that in the morning I'm going to wake up. If you weren't sure you were going to wake up in the morning, you couldn't go to sleep at night. And I've actually known people who have a sort of phobia, a phobia that maybe I won't wake up in the morning, and they have a terrible time going to sleep, not because of normal insomnia, but because they're afraid, if I go to sleep, who knows what will happen to me. And so they become afraid of sleeping. So you have to have faith in order to go to sleep at night. You have to have faith in order to breathe normally without thinking of every breath. You have to have faith that there's going to be food on your table. If you don't have that faith, then of course you, like a beggar, you're desperate to try to get food every day. So we all have some sort of faith. And so there are three types of faith that are critically important. One is faith in the universe. This is the most basic faith. And this type of faith, whether you're religious or an atheist or whatever, you have some sort of faith in the universe. You may realize that the universe is not quite as stable as we think, that a huge asteroid could come, and that's happened in the past. An asteroid or a comet could come and crash into the earth and we could all be dead. That's possible. But you can't live thinking about that every moment. My God, is there a comet coming now? Is there an asteroid coming now? No. You pass your whole life and you're still going like this every moment. And no, you can't live like that. And so a basic faith in the stability of your world, that things are going to continue to sustain you. And so that sort of basic faith is essential. A second sort of faith that we have to have is faith in ourselves. Swami Vivekananda put this first, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But first, the basic idea of faith in myself. If I don't have any faith in myself, then also I can't do anything. Even if I don't have faith in the stability of the universe, if I have faith in myself, then I can bear with the problems that arise, the constant problems that arise in the world. So faith in oneself is prior even to faith in the universe. So without a basic faith in myself, then I couldn't do anything. I couldn't walk. If I didn't have the faith that, okay, if I'm going to stand up, that I can walk, then I wouldn't get up. If I didn't have the faith that I could fix my lunch or my supper, then I would be desperate. What am I going to eat? No, I have faith that I can prepare food. I have faith I can go to the store and buy groceries. I have faith that I can manage the basic things of my life. That type of faith we all have to have. Some people don't have it, and their life is a tragedy. But we all, in order to lead a normal life, have to have some faith in ourselves. Now, Swami Vivekananda was talking about a much greater faith, a faith that within you is all power in the universe, that within you is all knowledge, within you is all power. It's just a question of bringing it out. So let me learn to have that faith that inside of me is all power, is all knowledge. I may not have manifested it yet, that's okay. But with time and with opportunity, I will learn to manifest more and more. So let me have that faith. So Swamiji said, never make a child afraid. Never use fear to control a child. In Swamiji's own childhood, of course, there was that incident where an uncle was telling him and other kids that you shouldn't play in that tree because there's a ghost and he will catch you and break all of your bones. And the man was telling them that because he didn't like to be disturbed with the kids playing in the tree. And so he told them that there's a ghost who lives there and he will grab you and break all of your bones. So all of the other kids wanted to run away. That's why, but Naren, the future Swamiji, he stayed. And the others said, but Naren, come, we must run away. We have to run away. The ghost will get us. And Naren said, how foolish. If there were a ghost in the tree, we've been playing in the tree for so long, he would have already broken our bones. Why is it that now, because the man told us that there's a ghost there, that suddenly he's going to break our bones? If he was there, he would have already gotten us. And so there's no ghost. Forget about it. And so Swamiji said, never use fear to control a child. Teach children to have faith in themselves, because that's the greatest thing that we can have. Swamiji used to say that all great men are people who were given faith in themselves, usually first by their mothers, often sometimes by their wives as well. But behind every great man there was a great mother who inspired their children with faith in themselves. So always inspire faith in children. So faith in the universe, faith in oneself, and faith in God. Faith in God. That is, faith that whether you think, now well, let me back up and say, by God here, I mean a placeholder for spirit. Whether you think in terms of the infinite spirit who's not definable as God and not a personal God that I pray to and worship, but just the infinite impersonal spirit, or whether I think in terms of God, Shiva, Kali, Krishna, Ramakrishna, etc. A personal God to whom I can pray and to worship. It doesn't matter. God in either case, faith in God in either case. But let me take, since most people here think in terms of faith in God, let me use that as to simplify the discussion. So faith in God means faith that there is this infinite all-loving reality. Faith that there is this infinite all-loving reality that is present everywhere, present primarily within my own heart, and present within the hearts of others. And that this infinite intelligence, this infinite all-loving intelligence, loves me. Not because of what I do or don't do, not because of my appearance or whatever else, but just loves me because for my very being. That it's the nature of that infinite God to be all loving, to be all accepting. And so to believe in the presence of the omnipresence of this infinite all-loving intelligence who runs this universe in such a way that every experience that I have means something for me. That's a strange paradox that as one progresses in spiritual life, one finds that as we grow in spiritual life, we find that everything that happens to me, good or bad, I begin to see that, no, there's a reason why that happened for me. The reason that this happened for me. And you realize it's true for others as well. But it's only if you begin to realize that you begin to see it. You begin to see that things are happening in a way that's meant for you, good and bad and indifferent. That the world presents to you that which you need. It presents to you that which you need, including good and bad. Then you begin to see that faith in God and faith in the universe are the same thing. That the universe responds to you because there's this all-loving intelligence behind it. That the universe is not a dull, dead, material universe. That the universe is an intelligent universe. And not just intelligent in a cold, calculating, computerized manner, but intelligence which is love itself. That eternal being is constantly calling to me, constantly giving me chances to wake up, constantly calling to me. And all I have to do is to begin to learn how to respond. And I begin to learn how to respond by just seeing in every situation, what should I do here? What should I do here? What is my proper response? That is, again, to see that there's an intimacy between me, the actor, the subject, and the universe, which is the manifestation of the divine being. And that in every situation there's an appropriate action for me. All I have to do is to see in every situation what is appropriate for me. What is the right thing to do here? What is the right thing for me to do here? What do I need to do here? So that if I see someone that needs help, then let me give them help. If I see something that I can easily fix, then let me fix it. It doesn't mean that one has to become what we call a busybody, that going around interfering with everybody who doesn't want help by giving my help to them. No. Everybody doesn't want your help. You're not called on to help everybody and everything, because everybody doesn't even want your help. But it's that which is right in front of you. That which is right in front of you, what is meant for me to do here? And then you begin to see that there's an appropriateness to action in every situation. And that's because there's an intimacy between you and the universe. It's a very strange thing about the universe. It's this infinitely complex universe with all of these beings and so many things happening, and everybody pursuing their own ends, everybody pursuing their own happiness, everybody trying to avoid their own misery and everything. And yet for each one of us, there's an intimacy between the totality that I confront, this universe that I'm confronting. And it's true of each person as well, that there's an intimacy between each one of us and the universe that we perceive. That we only begin to see as the mind begins to become a little bit quiet. I'm not talking about samadhi and high things like that. Just the mind has to become a little bit quiet. The mind has to become a little bit settled. And then we begin to see that no, there's an appropriateness to everything, an appropriate response for me to give to everything. And then that's all I need to do. And so then faith in God, faith in the universe, and faith in myself, they all come together. And then we see that it's just faith. Let me expand the idea of faith a little bit more, because faith is a very interesting phenomenon. Every child is born into the world with infinite faith. The child has infinite faith, faith in everything. I remember when I was a kid, a little small kid, and my mother's still at an age where my mother used to read stories to me at night to put me to sleep. My mother had 5 kids, so she had a lot of storytelling to do. And she did it to us individually. But when she would read me stories, there was one story that struck me because it made no sense to me at the time. And that was about this princess. She's the daughter of a king. And this princess, she believed anything that anybody told her. Anybody would tell her anything, and the princess would say, "Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's interesting." She would believe everything that anyone told her. And the king was very worried because he realized that people could take advantage of her, that people would tell her things that she should not believe. And so he offered a prize to anyone in the kingdom who could convince his daughter that she shouldn't believe anything and everything. And I thought, that's so strange. Why shouldn't you believe anything and everything? Well, why shouldn't you? It was a very strange story to me. I thought that she was a good person because she believed everybody, she accepted everything. That was a good thing. So the story goes on. Many people tried to collect the reward by talking to the girl and trying to convince her that you shouldn't believe anything and everything. And so finally, nobody could convince her. And you got a chance to get this grand reward that the king would give, vast wealth he would give if you could. And if you didn't, you got some punishment. And so finally, there was nobody left who wanted to seek the reward. But then one day, a traveling wise man, came through the capital city. And he saw posted the announcement that the king was offering a grand reward for anyone who could do this. And so he went to the king and said, let me try, I can do it. And the king said, I've given up. Everyone has tried, so many people have tried, no one has succeeded. There's no use, I have no hope left anymore. The man said, no, let me try, I think I can do it. And so the king said, well, there's no harm in trying, except that you won't get the reward, and there'll be a punishment also for having wasted my time. So the man said, I'm willing to try. So the man sat with the girl for 2 days, trying to explain to her, trying to talk sense into her, and she just, still just believed everything. So finally, this wise man was at his wit's end, and he realized that I'm going to fail too. And so then he got angry and said, you are a fool, and your father is a bigger fool for having offered this reward for trying to solve this problem for a fool like you. Your father is the biggest fool in the world. Then suddenly the daughter said, no, my father's not a fool. My father's a good man. And so then he succeeded. And everyone else had failed, but he succeeded. Because he made the girl say, no, you're wrong. No one had been able to get her to do that before. So again, I heard this story, and I thought that's the strangest story I ever heard, even as a little kid. Because the girl was a good girl. She was believing everything. Of course, later, as I grew up, I understood that, no, you can't believe everything. You can't believe. And that's what happens to us. We start as children believing in everything. Our parents are deities. Matri Devo Bhava. Pitri Devo Bhava. Let your mother be, as the Atmarupanandaji says, let your mother be a god to you. Let your father be a god to you. You don't have to teach that to little children. Little children already believe it. I remember so many childhood arguments where somebody would say, well, my father said such and such. And I'd say, no, my father said this. No, my father, this is right, that's wrong. I say, no, my father said this is right, that's wrong. But no, my father knows. No, my father knows. And so children already have that tendency to accept their parents as deities. But gradually as we grow up, we begin to realize that no, people do try to cheat us, people do try to harm us, people do say things that are not for our welfare, they try to manipulate us and so forth. And so gradually that ability to have faith, that is closed down. So that by the time we're grown up, we've already become cynical, most of us. And so in religious life, we have to learn to open up that faith, but with the discernment of an adult. With the discernment of an adult who knows that I have to have faith. I can have, not that I have to, not as a question of having to do something. I can have faith in some things, and in some people, and in some ideas. And there are other things that I can't have faith in. The problem for the child is that, yes, it is very dangerous if a child doesn't learn that they have to protect themselves in certain situations. But we overlearn that. And so then we have to learn to have childlike faith where childlike faith can be had. And where childlike faith can be had is in the divine, in God. And then we can have faith in the scriptures as well. That we have to learn. That we shouldn't have faith in the scriptures just because somebody tells you you should have faith in the scriptures. But through study and through meditation, we begin to see that something like the Bhagavad Gita, that Ajay was referring to, something like the Bhagavad Gita is such a grand text. There's so much wisdom there. And what it's saying is for my good. It's not telling me for its sake. It's not that the Gita has some ulterior motive to try to convince me of something because it's going to benefit. No, it's for my good. And so then you get faith in the scriptures as well. So faith in God, faith in the spiritual goal, faith in the scriptures, faith in myself, and faith that the universe provides me what I need, including even death. The universe provides death as well. And death will come when we need that as well. We may not be ready. We may think, no, I don't need that. I need to live. But no, we need to die also. This body needs to go. And for different ones of us at different times, in different ways. But when we realize that, again, there's this, the universe is responsive to me, that it reflects back to me that which I need, then faith in the universe as well. So, well, let me make time for another question, otherwise this one question will take the whole time. So let me see if there are any other questions. Yes, yes, please.
Talking about that just now.
Oh, wait, just for a moment. Good, okay.
So you were just talking about death just now. Like most of us will go through the entire life with different experiences, right? And it comes to death also, each one of us will probably go through a different path. Like you heard about the recent suicides that happened.
Yes.
People suffer a lot physically, like Swami Ramakrishna suffered with cancer. But so there are different ways people die. Now, does it have an effect in your next rebirth, or when is that sum total of all your karmas, and the death included in that? How the way you die, and in the next life, does it determine any kind of consequences? The way a lot of people do euthanasia. There are so many ways people die, and not every time it is something that was granted by God. Like you are not suffering because of illness or sickness. There could be other options you're taking.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. No, the manner of our death, if it's not taking our own life, if our life is taken from us, that is determined by karma, whether it's in an accident. I don't know if you were here. Was it last week? I don't know if it was on Sunday or on a Tuesday. When I read a letter, no, it wasn't a letter, it was an article from a 1924 Prabuddha Bharata, our magazine, about a Swami who passed away in Vrindavan, who heard heard a divine voice calling him, "It's time to come home, come home." He said it was an extraordinarily sweet voice. All he wanted to do was to answer the call. The call was coming. And he was writing this letter to his friend. There's an actual Swami of our order and he wrote a letter to another Swami of the order who was his friend. This happened in 1924. He said, what is this? What is this? I'm being called. I'm being called. It's such a beautiful voice. I can't resist it. It's sweet beyond measure, and so forth. And so then that day, it started the previous night, and then during the day, from time to time, he heard the voice. And he finished writing the letter at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then he had to attend to the accounts of the ashram. And then there was Arati. And so at the time of Arati, he went to the Jamuna River just for a short time. He went to the river. And there he was bitten by a snake. And he came back to the ashram, and they saw the snake bite, and he died shortly after. So he knew that he was going to die, but he heard the call of God. God was calling him to come to the Divine Mother, calling him to herself. Such an infinitely sweet voice, he said. But the manner of his death he didn't know, but it happened to be from a snake bite. So it's very strange. He hears this divine call, "It's time to come away, come away, come away." And then he goes to the Jamuna, he's bitten by a snake, and he dies. It's a very, very strange thing. But there was the fact that he was going to die, that was clear. But the how, that was determined by divine providence and karma together. And so the way that we die is determined by karma. But it's considered that suicide is, in the Hindu tradition as in other traditions, that's a very sad way to go, that one should not commit suicide, that one should let nature take its way, and Sri Ramakrishna used to say that if we commit suicide, then we'll have to come back again and again in order to make up for having done that. This life is given to us for the experiences that we're going to have, and so that we should allow those experiences to play out, and not to cut that short by our own hand. There is an exception even to that, and that is, as Sri Ramakrishna himself said, that if one has had the experience of God, And if one knows that one's karma is finished, then they're jumping into the Ganges, or or stopping food and water until one dies and so forth. That's not suicide. That's suicide. And things like euthanasia for a person who's old and in extreme pain, I don't have any judgment of that. Swami Swahanandaji also used to say that that's not for us to judge. If a person is in intense pain, they know that they're going to die anyway, and they want help just to get it over with, that we can't judge, because some things are unbearable. But in general, it's good to let nature take us when nature wants to take us, not to take our own life. That's considered a very, very a thing with great karmic consequences, serious karmic consequences. That's why Master Mahashoy, the recorder of the gospel, Sri Ma, or M as we call him in English, when he told Sri Ramakrishna that his wife was threatening suicide because M was not paying proper attention to her, then Sri Ramakrishna got very upset and said, no, don't, one shouldn't even threaten such a thing, that shouldn't think about that. So it happens, and I've had friends who have committed suicide, and people, very good people that I loved. And so then for such people we pray for them, wish them the best, and hope that that they have another chance to come back and in better circumstances or whatever. So when something happens, the only thing you can do is to pray and to wish for the best. But before something happens, we should know that no, suicide is not a way out. That as Sri Ramakrishna said, we have to come back in order to learn the lesson not to do that. So that adds karma to us. So not to do that. Let me say another thing about passing away. That most people have the idea that and you hear it all of the time, everywhere in this country, in India, everywhere. If somebody suddenly dies unexpectedly, say they're walking across the street and they're hit by a truck without even knowing that they were being hit, they're hit from behind and they're dead instantly. Or they go to sleep and they were okay when they went to sleep, they go to sleep and they don't wake up, they died in sleep or something. Everyone says, oh, that's an ideal death, because they didn't suffer at all, didn't know what was happening, they just, one moment they're living and the next moment they're dead. Well, no, that's not a sad death, but it's not an ideal death. The ideal death for an ordinary person is where there's time when you know that I'm going to die. You have time, and you have time to prepare yourself. And even if they're suffering, because a person, if they suffer enough, I've had enough, now I just want to rest, now I just want to go. And so then they have accepted the idea of death. They realize that death is a release, and then that is a good thing. To suddenly be snatched away from life without knowing what's happening, again, if it happens, it happens. Nothing to mourn about it. But it's better to have time where the mind has time to adjust to the fact that I'm going to die. As was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, I think was her name, the one who did some of the initial research here in America on death and dying. She said you go through the 5 stages, and I forget what they are, but denial and anger and bargaining and so forth, what all 5 of these stages are. But let that process happen. To the point comes where you realize, okay, now I'm okay with death. Now I'm okay. I've had enough. Now I want to go. Then the mind is accepting of it. So, and then of course there's some people who know when they're going to die. Some are great spiritual aspirants who have developed to the point where they know they're going to die. There was recently a Swami in Kankal who told everybody, I'm dying tomorrow at such and such a time, and everyone came and he did die, fully conscious. But there are other people as well who know that they're going to die. I've known people, like my own father, who told me and others that the next time everyone in the family comes together, it will be for my funeral. So he knew that he was going to die soon, and he did. And the next time everyone came together, it was for his funeral. So, so some people know that they're going to die, and that's considered a great blessing if you know. If you don't know, again, you don't know. These are not things to mourn over or to think, oh gosh, I wish so-and-so had known, or I wish I had known, or whatever. No. If it happens, it happens. But if it happens, it's good. If it happens that you have time to know that, okay, now this is it. I have something fatal. This is going, now I'm not going to recover. Then you have time for the mind to get used to it and to prepare for it. Those are considered ideal. But again, to come back to a simple answer to your question, that yes, the way that you die, other than suicide, the way that you die is karmic. Yes? Oh, I'm sorry. There was already a question. No, somebody already had the mic. Okay, yes.
Maharaj, we hear that the religion, the definition of the religion is that how you live your life, or it's a way of life. And then the spirituality, how do you connect the spirituality with the religion?
Okay. Well, that's a modern distinction which has been made between religion and spirituality. It's a good distinction. It's a helpful distinction, but it is a modern distinction. And so we have to realize that it's not necessary to put religion on this side and spirituality on that side. But nowadays, there are many people who have become fed up. It happens in India, it happens in America, it happens in Europe and elsewhere, where people see that most religious people are just going through the motions. They go to the temple, they make some offerings and pray for a lot of money, and pray that their children get good grades on the examination and things. It has very little to do with God. It's just going through the motions, going to the temple, giving these things, and then you see the priests in the temple. They do the arati, go like this. Put that down. Now give me money. Come on. 5 rupees? Come on. Give me more. So you see that and you realize that most so-called religious people in the world are just going through the motions. They don't have a deep belief. They're not really seeking God. They're using God to seek the world, to seek the good things of the world. And so in that situation, recognizing that, then religion means the formal parts of the motions that you go through, going to the temple, bowing down, making offerings, and so forth. And spirituality means a seeking direct experience of God and soul. Seeking experience of divine truth. That's spirituality, when you make a distinction. Now again, that distinction wasn't always made. There were people who just went through the motions of religion, and there were people who sought the heart of religion, and it was all religion. But recognizing one to be just formality, and the other to be seeking divine experience, then you make a distinction. And Swami Vivekananda and Sri Ramakrishna, they were really the founders of this distinction. That's not usually recognized. It was they who were at the base of this modern distinction between experiential religion and just the formal aspect of religion. That Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji always emphasized that religion means experience. That if you haven't had experience, then that's not real religion. That's not spirituality. That's just formalism. And Swamiji said that the great majority of us are atheists. Only the one who says I'm an atheist is sincere, because he really means it. The rest of us say, oh, no, I believe in God, but we don't. God is just something that makes us comfortable, so that while we're seeking things in the world, God makes us feel better about seeking things in the world, but that's all that God does for us. So this distinction between religion and spirituality. So for a person who wants real religion, that's a person who's seeking spirituality. Now let me say something that you find in the West, and to some extent in India, among the educated and cosmopolitan and westernized classes. But you see it here among a lot of young people. a rejection of traditional religion. And I just want the experiential part. And so I hate organized religion. I don't want to follow Hinduism. I don't want to follow Buddhism. I don't want to go to churches. I don't want to go to synagogues. I don't believe in all of that. I'm just going to be spiritual. Well, it's good to want to be spiritual. But first of all, you don't have to reject everything else in order to be spiritual. And second of all, it's not even good to reject everything, because the forms of religion were developed in order to direct the mind towards God. What you want is sincerity, and what you want is to recognize that what these things were developed for. Why is there arati? Why do we do puja? Why do we offer flowers and things? Those are very effective ways of focusing the mind on God. But if I'm not interested in God, and just interested in doing ceremony because it's the way I make money as a priest or something, or I'm a businessman and I want to make a lot of money, and I have the idea that if I make offerings to Ganesha and to Lakshmi, that the money is going to flow to me. So I'm just using it as a cosmic vending machine. I push the button and I get money back. Then that's not, that doesn't have much value. And so those teachers, and there are plenty of them nowadays, East and West, who say that you don't need a teacher, you don't need an institution, you don't need organization, you don't need practices, that truth is a pathless realm, and there's no way to get there. And so if you're doing a practice, you're trying to get something that can't be got through a practice. And so don't do it. Just give all of that up. Just be, and that's all you have to do. Problem is that the great majority of people are already doing that. They're not seeking anything. They're not trying to get anything, and they're the same old people that they always were. So the forms of religion were developed in order to give a focus to the mind. Swamiji called them the kindergartens of religion, but he said that most of us need kindergarten. Most of us need kindergarten. Most of us are ready to begin kindergarten. We're not ready for graduate school. And so most of us need to go through the kindergarten. So we should recognize that this is kindergarten, and recognize that it's for the purpose of eventually taking me all the way up to graduate school. But I need to start where I am. And so these little forms, doing japa, singing kirtan, doing bhajans, reading sacred books, bowing down in the temple, offering flowers on the altar and so forth, all of that has meaning because it is a way that the mind is directed towards God. And eventually a time comes where we don't need anything. We don't need anything. Then the mind just wants to flow towards God. And then all of the forms and things become an excess, something that just gets in the way. Then we just want to keep the mind focused on the truth. But until then, we need something that directs the mind. And so then that's what religion, the purpose of religion is. So all we have to do is just know what the purpose of religion is, and then use whatever helps us for that purpose. There's no tradition which has as much ritual as Hinduism, but in Hinduism you don't need to follow any ritual if you don't want to. There's all kinds of rituals you can do, but you don't need any ritual if you don't want it. There's no tradition which has as much mythology as Hinduism. So many texts and stories and Puranas, and Shiva did this, and Durga did that, and Kali did this, and Vishnu did that, and Krishna did that, and Rama did that. So many wonderful stories, beautiful stories. But if you don't want them, you don't need a single story. You don't need any stories. But for many of us, they're extremely helpful. If we read the stories of Sri Ram and see the things that he did and everything, it illustrates the divine truths and fills the mind with that divine truth. If we read about Sri Krishna and the things that he did, then it fills the mind with the beauty of Sri Krishna's life and all of that. If you don't want it, you don't need any story in Hinduism. But you have an infinite variety of stories if you want them. If you don't want ritual, you don't have to have ritual. You don't have to go around breaking up shrines and temples and destroying them and saying nobody should be going to a temple or anything. No, just don't go. But if you find value in it, there are all kinds of rituals you can do that will help you to rise in spiritual life. So use, the great thing about Hinduism is that intrinsically it's not tied to any ritual or any mythology. The Upanishads were the first texts in the world, religious texts in the world, go beyond story to just the perception of truth. So if that's enough for you, that's all you need. But if you want story, if story helps, then there's infinite story and beautiful, beautiful stories that will inspire your life. And the same with ritual. So the purpose of all of this, the purpose in everything in religion is to direct the mind towards God. So use whatever helps. Use whatever helps, but recognize it as a tool. Don't take it as the end and aim. Otherwise you go around telling everybody, oh, I like the Ramayana, so everybody has to read the Ramayana. Or I like the Vishnu Purana that tells about Sri Krishna and all of that. Everybody has to read the Vishnu Purana. Or I like this and everybody has to do that. No. Find that which is meaningful to you and do it. And realize God through it. But realize that the purpose is the relation of God. So I'll stop with that. So time is up. No more. Oh, yes.
She had a question, Lauren.
Okay, I'll do it, just a brief one. Yes, yes. I mean, my answer will be brief. Okay.
Hello, Maharaj. I had a question about selflessness.
About?
Selflessness.
Oh, okay.
I guess I'm asking, does selflessness alone bring you closer to the divine truth? And I ask this question in the context of teaching children. I used to teach Sunday school here at the center. And with young children, to get them sort of closer to God, I find just, repeating the fact that doing kind things and selfless things, at least in my life, has brought me closer to God. Is that something that you agree with?
Yes, yes. In fact, Swami Vivekananda said that religion is unselfishness. That's what religion is. Spirituality is unselfishness. That if you become unselfish, then you become spiritual. For children, that's a very good thing to inculcate in children, but a very difficult thing, as I'm sure you know, in children, because a child, everything is about me. It's my toy, I want this toy, no, I don't want to share it with my sister or my brother, it's for me, I want to be first, etc. So that's part of the training that children have to get, not in a severe way, but I'm sure as you tried to do by giving them examples and telling them the benefit of being unselfish and that how they will feel better about themselves and it will connect them to the world, whatever a child can understand. But unselfishness is the, as Swami Vivekananda said, unselfishness is morality. Morality is founded in the idea of unselfishness. And why be unselfish? The Vedantic answer is because by being unselfish, you become connected to everything. As long as you're trying to protect this, you're cutting yourself off from everything and becoming small and insignificant. If I become unselfish, it means that I'm taking the whole world into myself, not separating it out from myself. So unselfishness, in a sense, is becoming infinitely selfish. That is, I take the whole world as myself. That instead of being just interested in this, I'm interested in everything. So unselfishness is the essence of everything, properly understood. Let me just say one other thing, and then I'll close, as we're out of time now. And that is that it's not so much necessary in an audience of people that are from India, Indian origin audience, but it is very necessary in the West nowadays to say why unselfishness is good. Because I've spoken about unselfishness in classes before where the audience is primarily Western, and people will say, well, Maharaj, I'm a psychological counselor, and I have to counsel people who have the problem of being too unselfish. They can't take care of themselves. They're too unselfish. They think it's wrong to think of themselves, and that is their problem. That they have no sense of boundaries. They can't look after their legitimate needs. there is an actual psychological problem where it's not really unselfishness, but where you have been taught, and this is something, again, that is prevalent because of a particular type of religious teaching, not to blame it on Christ and Christianity as a tradition, but on a particular type of teaching of Christianity, that you don't have any right to think about yourself, that you shouldn't think about yourself, that other people are more valuable than you are. And that, so people will say, oh, I pray, but I never pray for myself, because why should I pray for myself? I only pray for other people. I wouldn't meditate because that's selfish. I should be thinking about other people. I don't do any cultivation of my own mind and think so that's selfish. I'm worried about other people and everything. No, that's a disease where you're unable to realize that, or where your so-called unselfishness is based on self-hatred, that I'm unworthy, I'm bad, I'm sinful, I'm unworthy, and so I try to get outside of myself by busying myself with other people. That's not unselfishness. Unselfishness means where I'm transparent. The other is the opposite of transparent. It's a perverse type of egotism, where I hate myself. I'm always thinking about myself and hating myself and trying to escape from myself by busying myself with other people. But true unselfishness comes on the basis of self-acceptance. But I don't need. I love to give to others. I give to others because I love to give to others. I help others because I love to help others. It comes from a sense of transparency. The other comes from a sense of a faulty sense of self. So again, if that's not a problem for us, we don't have to worry about it. But it is a problem for some people, and especially those people who have been taught that you are sinful, you are unworthy, you are not a good person, you can never be a good person, you don't deserve anything, others deserve it, but you don't deserve it because you're bad, and so forth. No, that's not unselfishness. So, okay, we'll close here. So let me give as I said in the last couple of classes, I'm going to reverse my usual ending of the lectures and classes because we're video streaming, live streaming, and also posting the results to the internet later. And when I finish the topic and then give announcements and then give the closing prayer, that means that we're live streaming and also posting for posterity the announcements which nobody is interested in before you get to the closing prayer. So I'll give a closing prayer that will end the formal part of the talk, and then I'll give announcements and then oddity. Om Dyo Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithvi Shanti Apa Shanti Oshadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishwe Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantiredhi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace is in the heavens, peace is in the sky, peace is on earth, peace is in the waters, peace in the plants and the trees. The gods are peace. Peace is the nature of truth. All is peace. Peace alone, peace. May that peace, real peace, be with us all. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all the beings of the universe.